So my passion is to learn about other people's passions, because when someone has a chance to talk about what they're most passionate about, everything about their being becomes brighter, it becomes more real, it becomes more them. And I think that authenticity and that feeling alive and connected and present in the world is a thing I want to surround myself with all of the time. On today's episode, I'm talking to the magnetic Cindy Carrillo. If you want to learn more about Cindy, please go to janesplace.com, where you'll get more details and learn about her favorite comfort food. So, Cindy, one of the things that I'm most passionate about is learning about other people's passions, because so much of what we're trying to do on Jane's Place is to help people learn how they can build their confidence. And a lot of times building your confidence comes from doing things that you're passionate about. And it really helps you become more comfortable in your own skin and more comfortable around other people. And so I always just love to ask the question, what are you most passionate about? And it doesn't have to be one thing, it could be multiple things. But what's the first thing that comes to mind?
It's a great question. And when I think about what I'm passionate about, I think one of the things that gets in my way of answering the question is that I've never been anyone who excelled at one thing. And I always think that passion drives you to excellence, right? And I think for me, it comes to what's really important to me.
Okay.
And I think, and I look back at all the different things that I've done in my life, I think the through line for me, that I guess is probably my passion as I think about it, is fostering connection. Mm-hmm. I think the work that I've done, the relationships that I've had, I think that the thing that I thrive with is this, mm-hmm. is those connecting points. And I also think probably my desire to connect the dots, to create things and build things by pulling different people together and different ideas together. And when I'm able to do something that taps into that and I can see the connections, whether it be with things that are around me or people and relationships, then I think there's nothing better. Absolutely nothing better.
And do you remember a time where you kind of first started connecting people and the dots was like where you kind of go, oh, like this is my superpower, or this is something that actually I get so much out of? I mean,
I think so. Well, I started entertaining when I was 16.
Okay.
The idea of pulling people together for a memory, for an event. I remember going to my parents when I was 16 and saying, I think I want to have a dinner party with my friends in the dining room.
Oh, wow.
Can I do that? And they were like, yeah, that's weird, but okay. And I made spaghetti, salad, and garlic bread. I'll remember, and probably the worst double layer cake I've ever, I think the top just came right off. It was not one of my finest moments, but I love the idea of like pulling a bunch of kids together, sitting around the table, playing grown up, right. And just the conversations that came from it, the experience that came from it, obviously it was a memory for
yes.
me. And I think that idea of like, how do you pull things together? How do you connect people? How do you create a memory? How do you do an event? How do you build a company? I ran a summer camp, and the idea of having a bunch of kids come and have an experience together with staff in an environment. And what was that supposed to look like? Like what we were going to do, and how do I make that happen? And visualizing those connections. starting a company. My first company was actually with my parents, and we started a plant shop in the 70s.
Really?
Yeah, I know, right?
And this is in Michigan then?
No, it was when I first moved to Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And I moved to Colorado when I was 19, followed my parents. My parents came here first. They left me. And I said, oh, no, I'm going to follow you. And I moved to Colorado, knew nobody but my parents. And I remember my parents sitting me down and saying, we could all go out and get jobs. My dad was changing careers. He was in law school at the time. And he said, or, we could start a business together. What would you like to do? And at that time, indoor houseplants was kind of a thing again.
Right.
It used to be like your grandmother had a philodendron and that was it.
Right.
And this was before big box stores. This was before supermarkets carried plants.
Right.
And so they were specialty stores for houseplants. And I kind of liked houseplants. And I said to them, maybe we could create something where people would come and they would enjoy plants and start to buy plants again. And my folks went, okay.
Wow.
I know. That was kind of amazing. And we came up with a budget, and my dad put me in charge of buying because I was the only one who knew anything about plants. And he said, you need to go figure out how we can buy plants for the shop. And I was like, okay. So it was that connecting the how are we going to do this? So I got out a map. I got in my 1965 Volvo, and I put on a pair of overalls because apparently I thought that was what you did when you went to go buy plants.
Right.
You're going to go to a greenhouse, so I had to look the part. And
no city girl, no Green Acres kind of thing here.
Nice suburban girl putting on the, I had to look the part, and went out and had to develop a relationship in order to buy the plants, get them delivered, hand pick them, and then we created this. I loved my parents for this. We created an experience for people to come into the shop. And we would do games and sales that were like, you color code and you'd pick a color out of a fishbowl, and whatever you picked, then you got that discount. I don't know, it was crazy stuff.
Wow.
But it was an experience. It was more than just a business, and it was more than just a retail shop. It was an environment, and it was a relationship we were going to have with the customers and with my parents and with our buyers and with the people we bought the plants from. And I think that was a great lesson early in life that, it could be more than just the work you do. And it could be special, and you could make it up. And those were the things that were the connecting points for me. So starting a company for myself years later was about solving a problem and connecting people to a solution and building a culture that was special for the people who worked in the company, so that it would be a special service for the people who were buying our service. It was richer and deeper, and I think everything I've done since that plant shop, since that first entertaining my friends, was all about connecting and connection.
One of the things that comes to mind, Cindy, as you're talking about that is finding joy in whatever you're doing. So I kind of want to take this a little bit different direction, just to hear you talk about the plant shop. And first of all, your parents must have been amazing. I mean,
Amazing.
just to be able to have that experience, it's absolutely incredible. And you're an entrepreneur yourself. And so you've had lots of people work with you, and that, how do you cultivate that sort of finding joy? Like, how do you in a world where I hate to see people that show up to work or whatever they're doing, like, oh God, is it going to be Saturday yet? Like sort of having that attitude, like, I mean, I'm just doing this because I need to pay my bills. And it's so sad to me. And so just to hear you talk about some of your experiences, it feels like there's so much joy. And maybe talk a little bit about that and just your view of how you find joy in what you're doing.
I think maybe joy comes from that connection, that why. I think when you go out to find a job, it's about what you're going to do. I think when you think about working, you think about why. You think about how maybe you thrive, why you're doing it, which leads to purpose, right? The important stuff. And when you connect to the important stuff of why you're doing what you do in life, then it elevates it. And it's kind of hard not to enjoy it at that point, because you're connecting on such a meaningful level to who you are and how you thrive. And I think that normally as humans, when you don't feel well, when you're in pain, when something is just dragging you down, joy leaves. Joy leaves. Well, the complete opposite is true. When it feeds you, when it serves you, when it creates a wellness and a health within you, you're thriving. What logically comes with that is enjoyment, is joy. And so as a leader in a company, when I had my company, I felt that one of the most important responsibilities I had for the people who worked for me was to help them connect to what we were doing and see the importance of it. If they felt their contribution, the work they were doing was important, then it served them. Then it would feed them. And when you're fed, you're happy. You're fulfilled. And joy comes from that. And it's contagious. People used to walk into my office, because we used to have an office back then, which I highly loved. I do recommend that there's something to that. But people used to say, oh my goodness, sort of the energy in here is kind of palpable.
Right.
Because people were connected.
Right.
They saw they were important. They were an important part of what we did. And they could see it, they could feel it, and I'm here. and I think that connected all of us to the work that we did.
Right.
And it sort of becomes cyclical.
Right.
All together. And there's a momentum that's created from that.
That is so powerful. I mean, as you know, I'm running a company today that I ran a number of years ago, and I feel like somehow I've lost the connection that we've had in the past. And I think that you've said something here that really strikes me about, does everybody feel the work they're doing is important?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, whew, one of those things where the light goes on over your head, and it's like, wow, like that, is that how you get the joy? Is that how you get people to be passionate? Do people feel like they're part of something and their contribution is important?
It's important.
It's important, yeah.
Yeah, it means something. When I coach now, so one of the things that I find when people come for coaching with me in a more in-depth way is that they've lost the connection. They've lost the purpose, and they yearn for it. They don't feel like they're getting any more out of the work they've been doing, and they need to make a change or need to make a shift. And that's okay. I think one of the things that we need to be able to accept about ourselves is that through the evolution of our lives, it's okay to hit different points in your life where you just want more.
Right.
Where you've learned everything you can learn. Where you've gained the experience that was important for you to gain in a particular phase doing something. And now it might be time to take all of that from then and before and apply it differently, because we've grown and we need more. And oftentimes what happens is when we start to feel that lack of passion, that lack of purpose, that lack of joy, we think it's bad. We think that we've done something wrong, or the job, we start to go negative on the job because we feel better if we walk away from something that's not working.
Right, right.
So we kind of tear it down. And I kind of come from a philosophy of, ooh, pay attention. Pay attention. It's not bad. You may just have grown out of it. You may need more. So let's not tear it down. Let's appreciate what you've gotten. Let's just feel okay about it may be time to move on.
And that's hard though, right?
So
because you know, there's a lot of fear of moving on. I think there's also, you kind of get down these rabbit holes like of blame, or trying to maybe not even understand why it's happening, but just sort of just become, it kind of spirals, I guess, in some ways.
Well, we because I think as humans, we've been conditioned, and in this society, we've been conditioned that in order to move away from something, it needs to be bad.
Right, right.
We do that in relationships, and we do that in our jobs. So I kind of question that and say, why is that? Why do we have to make it bad? Why do we have to tear it apart and there could be no hope for it anymore? Right. It's just rotten. Burn the bridge down. Burn everything down so that somehow we feel better about moving on to something else. Because I tried everything, and now it's horrible. Okay, what if, instead of doing that, we just recognize that we've gotten everything we can out of it. It was great. But now I need to move forward towards something, not away, but towards something. It is scary because that represents the unknown a little bit more. But we get to bring everything with us.
Right. You know, as you say that, one piece of advice that I've given so many people is never leave a job, go to a job.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Because there's always like this sense that it's this negative thing, and I can't wait to get away from it. But then if that's the reason why you're moving versus going to something better or different, like you're talking about, then you get in this situation where you go to next could be just as bad as you were at before, because you don't really know why is it that you don't want to be there anymore.
That's right. And it's okay that you don't want to be there anymore.
Right.
Somehow we've made it not okay to move on.
Right.
Like, oh, is it bad? You know, we're all kind of expecting it. Right. When we make it bad too, it's really hard to look at the good stuff and bring it along with us. And it's also hard to appreciate. And sort of when you've left something and you've dissed it so much, well, how do you bring it with you?
Right.
And how do you learn from it? Because we've made it so bad. So I think maybe I'm just so friggin' optimistic and positive. I know I'm a half full kind of girl, but as I'm listening to myself, I'm like, oh my God, are you over the top? I don't think, sometimes I am, but I don't think in this situation, as we're talking about leaving something, it is just so wrought with responsibility. What am I leaving? I'm leaving my people.
Right.
You know, I'm leaving my contribution. I'm leaving all my responsibility. Well, I've built something really great. My team is fabulous. They're more than capable to take it from here. You know, it's better than when I came. Now it's in a great spot.
Right.
Now, let's jump off of that. And yet, let's not burn it.
Right.
And then take the joy. Take the accomplishment.
You know, I think, again, that just sort of reminds me of something else where so many people, when they do leave, they do burn the bridge,
They
or
do.
they do say, oh, well, it was terrible working for Jane and that company was a mess or whatever, as opposed to, like, you don't need to say that. That's not
Wasn't for me.
Yeah, right?
It was time for me to move on. It was great. It was great. Here are the things that was great. And then we learned from the things that didn't work for us. And then we take it with us and we apply it. That's how the evolution is supposed to work. That's how the growth is supposed to happen. We're not supposed to stagnate. We're not supposed to do the same thing for our entire lives. Well, some people are, and they're very happy doing that.
Yes.
I like change. I like the growth. I like the next iteration.
Well, it's funny because you like to. I love change too. I always say that, but then I realize I like change because I am driving so much change in my life, as opposed to somebody saying you have to do this or you have to do that.
That's
and
right.
I think for me at least, there's a nuance about change and why so many people feel like they're not in control.
Yep.
That somebody else is dictating, oh, your job is going away, or I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, or whatever. And all of a sudden change becomes super scary, and like
Totally.
you don't even want to think about like how you get to the next thing because you're just so scared.
Well, nobody likes to have change thrust on them.
Right.
Nobody likes to be told that something is going to change and you don't have a say in it. So, being much more of a change agent, like I think the both of us are, that does have a certain kind of responsibility that goes with it, and a certain freedom that goes with it. So I think you're absolutely right. I think what I'm talking about is partly when you are a change initiator, by recognizing that it's time to move on, or that you want more, or that it's not good enough. Whatever is there. When it happens to you, I think the challenge as well is not to go so deeply into the negative that you're paralyzed, that you cannot at some point lift your head up, and I hope that point is quickly, to be able to look at what is happening as opportunistically as you can. So it's the now what, based on the circumstance that I'm in, that has happened to me, what do I do with it? How do I now grab it? And what do I do to capitalize on all the things that I am to move myself forward? Because I'm not going to be a victim.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I wasn't going to use the victim word, which is exactly right. It was, to me, as you were talking about it, I kept thinking about owning it. Like, own it yourself, right? Yeah. Like, again, you might not control what's happening, but own how you react to it, own what you do next kind of out of it. Yeah.
Which is the power. So when we grab that from what has happened to us, if it's happening to us, part of the difficulty in that action of something happening to us is we've lost our power. Then that's where the feeling of being a victim comes in. When we grab it, we take the power from and we take it on. And nothing can stop you when you grab the power.
So let's just talk about that for a second, because I think it's such an important point, and you work with so many people that are in transitions, people that maybe feel like they've lost their power in some way. So for the people that are listening to this that may feel that they're in a situation where they've lost their power, how do you start to get it back? Or do you have any tips on that? Just a couple of key things to sort of say, okay, if you're feeling like you don't have your power, you're out of control, how do you flip the narrative?
What a challenge, right? Such a challenge. And I think, excuse me, I think inherent in the challenge is to stop.
Okay.
Because I think what happens is there's a momentum that takes over when something's happening to you, and there's a cycle we get into, which is the negative, and it's a panic, and it's a what now what, oh my God, oh, and there's a sense of urgency that happens and out of control and all those kinds of things. I'm almost getting anxious thinking about it, right?
Right.
It's like anxiety provoking. And I think one of the things we forget to do in those times is to slow down.
Right.
Just almost stop, breathe, center, and start to ask ourselves some of those hard questions that we don't feel we have the time to ask ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it gets back to the question of what's really important. And I don't think we ask ourselves that question very often, because we're in life, we're in the moment, we're in so many moments. Right. That we don't slow down and check in with ourselves to make sure that we're connecting to what's really important to us about how we're living, how we're working, what do we need, and where do we thrive? Mm-hmm. Thrive, not settle, not just get by, but like, what do we need to thrive? Because when we thrive, there's joy.
Wow. Well, I think that's the perfect end to a perfect discussion. Cindy, thank you so much. This is absolutely amazing. We could talk about this for quite a while. But I love that when you thrive, there's joy.
When you thrive, there's joy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy and I met many years ago at the Leeds School of Business at the University of Colorado, as we were both on the advisory board to the dean. Over the years, we have been in many meetings together, but have never sat down one-to-one. In 2024, when Cindy published her book titled Finding Your Next, When You're Ready for the Life You Really Want, I ordered it immediately. I was anxious to learn what was her take on finding the next thing, as I feel like I am continually searching for what is next. As I read the book, I was instantly drawn to her impactful yet simple advice. So when we sat down for today's episode, I couldn't wait to hear what Cindy is passionate about. Over the course of this episode, where we started talking about the importance of connecting, we talked about so many things, but everything came back to finding joy in what we do. And it's okay if we don't find joy and we just need to move on. So the questions that came up for us in this episode: first, do we find joy in what we are doing today? And second, if not, do we have the courage to identify why and the ability to move on to something where we can thrive and find joy again? Special thanks to Jane's Place fabulous producer, Aditi Joshi, who made my passion a reality. I am also so appreciative that the amazing musician, Tim Cook, provided the lively music from the Subdudes called Them Figs. This podcast was brought to you by Rudy's Bakery new gluten-free Sandos with Justin's Nut Butter, and from our friends at Naturally Colorado. I want to keep asking questions that matter, and I want this to feel like a space where your story belongs too. If there's something you want to talk about, a moment, a memory, a shift you're going through, Jane's Place door is always open. Truly. You can drop me a note on the website, join a future episode, or simply listen in when you're ready. Because Jane's Place isn't just a podcast, it's a gathering, and I'm so grateful that you're here.